Hello, everyone. Welcome to another conversation by Mental Health Today. Mental Health Today is a website that connects Indian mental health professionals to one platform where they can directly connect with their audience. The website aims at disseminating the latest awareness of latest interventions and self help resources in the field of mental health through articles, podcasts, and webinars developed by professionals and experts in the field. Our website URL is mentalhealthtoday.co.in. My name is Vanisha Sodi, and I'm an intern at MHT. And the topic for today's discussion is depression. So today joining us is Miss Shalini Das. Welcome, Shalini.
Thank you so much for having me
So
over.
about Shalini, she has a very cool introduction. She's a travel journalist and a marketing consultant, both at the same time. She's based out of Bombay. She has traveled to 16 states and 3 union territories and written about some offbeat places. And her work has also been published in some great magazines and newspapers like Deccan Chronicle and Entrepreneur of India. Today, Shalini will be sharing her own story with depression with us. So, Shalini, just starting off, what were your initial symptoms of depression, and when did you start, like, first noticing them, and how did that happen?
Basically, now I have been diagnosed after 20. I am 25, and so I'm just going to give you a brief about the current scenario, and then I will go backtrack it and I'll tell you the story. So basically, I'm 25 right now, and now I have come to a realization and an understanding that I suffer from recurrent depressive disorder. So there are different kinds of disorders. I am also studying masters in psychology. Being a masters in psychology, I did not knew that I had something so serious which is going wrong, absolutely wrong in my life. My parents had, and my depression didn't start now. I was a depressed person or a child since a very long time. So
Got it.
when a 5-year-old, distance herself from the society, from the people, or just wants to be, alone and aloof, there is a sign of depression in that child, but everyone ignores because thinking that okay, when she grows up, maybe that's how she is. When she grows up, things is going to be different, and things is going to be difficult, and stuff like that. So nobody really bothers about what goes into a child's mind when they are growing up. Same thing
Hmm.
happened with me. My
Yeah.
parents had an intercaste marriage, which was not, of course, 26 years ago, an intercaste marriage was not really a very cool idea to do it. But they had an intercaste love marriage, and they started staying separately. So their life had been very different from what the society's norms and rules were. So they broke all those norms and rules, and they started a life of their own. And then I was born. They always wanted a girl child, and they were more than happy to welcome me into the family, and everything was great. Uh, but somehow, when I started going to school, I started seeing that, these birthday parties, when I would attend my friends' birthday parties, there are family members coming over and stuff like that. Like there are, uncles and aunties and niece and nephews, and everyone is coming over, or people are on over the weekends, they're going to someone else's place. I would not have a family to go back to.
Hmm.
Like, I would just have my parents. So that kind of made me feel that, okay, I am different. My life is little different. I started speaking to my parents about it. They said, yeah, like your life is different, like because we did it this way, and this is not how the society works and stuff like that. So we are a different family, and let's work around. So they became my best friend. We started having conversation, more open conversations about different things. But being a child, that stuck with me, that really stuck with me. So I started, what I started doing is I started going out of my way to help other people. And when I was not getting that love back in return, or that respect back in return, I was not even looking for the word respect maybe at that point of time. Love back in return. I would be like, why is it not loving me back? Because I am giving it all. Why is it not? Because
So some sort
selflessly,
of validation you were seeking from.
yeah, a lot of validation was required, a lot of motivation was required at that point of time, that I am good enough to be loved, I am good enough to be a part of a community. So that's how it started. So by the time I was in class, remember class 2 or 3, I started showing some really, really different other kind of symptoms. Like I started getting scared of the dark. I started feeling uncomfortable with too many people around me. I was great with academics, so I would hide myself behind the books all the time. I would not have a social life as a child. I would not have a social life, even though I was very bubbly and cheerful and um, take part in activities. But I would still feel like, okay, I don't fit in here. I kind of don't fit in here. So that's the time my parents realized that no, I need to like they need to take me to a psychiatrist, or they need to see what's going wrong, because I was just getting scared for no reason. And basically I was scared of being alone, and but I also wanted to be alone at the same time.
Yeah.
So being a start when you're in class 3 or 4, you don't realize all of this. And back then, I don't think there was so much of these things. People would not talk about such and such things. But my parents, because my mom works against human trafficking, she has been working associated against with IGM, International Justice Mission, for a really long time. So she knew that this is not normal. What my child is feeling is not normal. So she, without thinking any like second thought, she took me to a psychiatrist. We got diagnosed and stuff like that. I was on medicine for a really long time, and things were absolutely fine after a point of time. Um, I was a healthy, good, fine child. I kind of accepted those fears and all, everything just vanished because I was also growing up. I was exploring things, I was exploring a life, different life and stuff. I changed school. So I didn't had that time to put my brain through these emotional aspects. But then again, when slowly, once you start growing up, you start getting all of that back again, because I was not healed. I was just covering up my baggages. I was just covering up. I kept covering up my baggages till a really long time.
Yeah, that's sort of my next something that I want to get onto, is that like so in the initial stages, did you take the symptoms for like something else, or did your parents take your symptoms for something else, or did you try to come up with a sort of like with excuses to justify the symptoms that you're just being shy or introvert? Like, did you do any of that?
Honestly, I wasn't a very introvert child at all. So there was this really bubbly part of me, and then there was this extremely silent part of me. So my parents knew that I suffer from depression. Like I suffer from some kind of depression. Of course, the word depression was not being used.
Yeah.
Rather, it was more like I am upset about something. I get angry really fast. There is an anger management issue. There's a personality development issue, is what we came up with at that point of time. So depression was not a thing, and I was too small to even realize that there was something going wrong. Because being a child throwing tantrums or throwing being moody is very justified
Yeah.
to a lot of people. But my parents never took that as okay. My parents were very strict about the fact that this is what it is, and we understand that there is something majorly going wrong in your life which we need to fix from the very beginning. and they knew that I have always been affected with the part that, I don't have a family to fall back on, because love marriages were not accepted in the society at that point of time. So
Yeah.
they knew that there is a void, there is a space where I'm looking out for love, from validation, love, motivation, um, and all kinds of adjectives that you want to put, care, pampering from your brother, cousins,
Yeah.
sisters, like that kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
they knew that that space is missing, and I'm seeing it
Mm.
happening with other people. So I am kind of not being able to
Mm.
relate
Mm.
them with me.
Mm. That's great that your parents were so understanding. Like 20 years ago, who would have known that your parents were so sort of woke about this? And even if they didn't use the term depression because it was not so commonly used, still they thought that there's something wrong and we should get it right. And that's great that
Yeah.
they acknowledge that. like so do you think that if your parents were not the supportive, and if they would have just sort of shoved you back, saying that oh, she's just being rebellious, she's just being very difficult, how difficult do you think it would have been for you to sort of come out and tell them that something's wrong? And also, how long it would have taken you to sort of get to a place to talk about something like this?
Honestly, I have no idea. If they would have not really pushed me to or introduced me the concept of mental health back when I was a child, while growing up, when I had my first heartbreak, because while when you're a teenager, like,
Yeah.
so once I started the medication and everything, it was a very smooth ride. So till class, say about class 9, 8, 9, I was doing fine. I was doing okay. There was, so mental health is also related to your body. It kinds of, it controls the entire system. Your
Yeah.
mental health controls the entire system. Like when you are active, you are, at the same time, your mental health can make you really lethargic, makes it
Hmm.
difficult for you to wake up from bed. And so so once, I started finishing school, and then once I started doing my higher studies, I start, like, it's normal to, find guys attractive, falling in love,
Yeah.
and all of that thing. And that's what happened with me. And I fell in love. We had a great relationship for which lasted about 6 years. But
Oh.
then that's the time I started realizing that I am going out of my way to do things
Hmm.
which is not me, which absolutely is not me. I was just trying to grab hold of something which was not supposed to work out at all at the first place, because uh, I believed in certain concept that, one person is that one person. Like you find that one person, and then you stick by that person. Like for
Hmm.
me, that was a concept, because I saw my parents having that concept. So that concept, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't apply
Yeah.
in everyone's
In it.
life.
True.
Uh, so it became very difficult for me. So when that broke off, I shattered. I completely got shattered, and that's when, I realized that there's so many baggages, and that was the starting point of me falling down. That was just one storm
Hmm.
that came into my life, and after that, there was one after the other, one after the other. Like my work started I started acting up in work. Things didn't go well. There are times when I could not get up from bed. uh, I was just thinking that, okay, by then, I was mature enough to just say that, well, it was just an heartbreak. And like I felt and I thought that it is mature enough to say that it's just a heartbreak. Maybe I'll just get over it. But no, that's the time that depression again really showed the right kind of symptoms that, no, Shalini, we gotta check. I ignored it. I ignored it for about 7 months and more. And that's and then I did, and then it led to my first ever suicide attempt. Like that was my, like, breakdown point, because I could not take it anymore. And I just, and at that point of time, I kind of just, everything just came back to me. Like everything that happened, everything that I felt bad about since my birth, since the time I realized that, this has hurt me, that has hurt me, everything came crashing down to me.
Hmm.
And um, and I tried to commit suicide, and we went back to the doctor. Then again, medicines were given and things like that. And I think I was around 18 years old back then when this happened, 18 or 19, if I'm not wrong. And this all happened, and it was just bad. Like I didn't know at that point of time. I just didn't wanted to live anymore. Like, and I was blaming the relationship. I was blaming the relationship that because of that I have been doing this. But it's not. It's not that. It was much later that I realized, or maybe this year is something, or last year sometime I realized ki, I have never dealt with my issues properly.
Hmm.
So you know what? The problem is that we put depression as depression. Like we treat it as cancer. So we say a person is suffering from cancer, whether
Hmm.
it's a blood cancer, whether
Yeah.
it's a uterus cancer, whether it's a skin cancer, whether it's a throat cancer. We do not address any of that.
Yeah.
When we are going to a psychiatrist, we tell them our problems, but we never ask them what kind of depression are
Hmm.
we suffering from, whether it's a recurrent depressive disorder, whether it's a bipolar disorder, whether it's a XYZ disorder. We don't ask them. Mental health issue comes to a compact where we have put it into a box and said that okay, this is only this much. It's
Yeah.
not this much. It's actually much more than you can even think of. That's where we are going wrong.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
my parents never asked the doctor the question ki what kind of depression it is, because I'm sure they was not knowledgeable enough to
Hmm.
understand ki what kind of depression it is. So
Yeah.
we try to, that phase of my life, we kind of just try to wash it off by
Hmm.
uh, by then I was already traveling. So this is 18, I started traveling when I was 16. So I tried to just move away from Calcutta. I started doing another job. I started traveling more, exploring more, doing things what I like and stuff like that. And that kind of gave, you know got a balance back into my life.
Hmm.
That was not it. Like I really never dealt with it. Even
Hmm.
with my first suicide attempt also, I really did not deal with it.
Hmm.
I just made an escape plan and I escaped it for
Hmm.
a point of time. And I was back to doing absolutely fine for another 2 to 3 years till more things keep happening.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel depression is still such an like upcoming thing in people's dictionary. Like some people still don't want to address it. So I feel talking about the types of depression and people being aware of the types of depression is like, it'll take a lot of time for people to know that, and people like you are the people who will, like, spread the knowledge that it's not just like as you said, that it's not just one thing. There are so that it's like such a big spectrum almost. So yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a very long road ahead when it comes to like mental health and knowing like the nitty gritties of mental health, like we know about something like cancer, as you mentioned. So
Yeah,
we can
exactly.
not talk about depression and not talk about stigma. In your case, you've been lucky that your parents were very supportive and they were the one who, and at such a young age, when you were so young, that they thought that you should go to a doctor. um, but like, because you were sort of diagnosed very early on when you were really young, and we know that kids in school can be very insensitive when it comes to like depression, and because of lack of knowledge and because it's not been addressed. So did you sort of face any sort of bullying because of that, or if someone knew that you were going to like a psychiatrist, which is not like a normal doctor to go to on a regular basis? So what kind
So
of
I have never
stigma
told
you?
anybody. So basically, I get it. Like, yeah, I have never told anybody that I was going to a psychiatrist, because I'm sure that schools did have psychiatrists at that point of time, because
Okay.
we studied in such big schools that they had
Hmm.
a psychiatrist. So going to a psychiatrist was like bunking classes. So
Yeah.
people thought that I was just going to a psychiatrist because I wanted to bunk my classes. I really did not address it. I did not tell anybody. I honestly just had one friend uh, who is still my friend. So I just had one friend, but also I never shared this with her. I have shared everything else with her, but I've never shared this part of me with her, because she feels that I'm a very emotional person. So she has
Hmm.
always been that, she has been there, she has listened. It's not that she has not listened. But I've never really got came in terms with anybody where I can really open up and say everything
Hmm.
uh, till a very long time. So I never had a constant friends. Everyone in my class was my friend. Like 52 children in the class, I know everyone's name. I know everyone's problem. I know everyone's home who has not done their homework. I would be this overall person. So I never had a group to fall back on. I never
Hmm.
uh, had a specific people. I never had specific people. So I never had to really go out and tell them that, I'm suffering from depression and things like that. So till my college days, in college I did find a group of three people, and we are still friends. And one of them realized that, okay, I suffer. Like, there is behind a very smiling face, there is something much more hidden.
Hmm.
And she wanted to know more about it, and she said that, you know what, you can just tell me, I will not judge you. I took a lot of time. I took about, say, 3 years. The college finished, we kept in touch, and after college finished, when we kept in touch with each other, that's the time I really opened up and told her, ki, this is what it is. Like, this is what it is. I feel suicidal most of the time. A lot of time I feel suicidal. I feel nervous. I just don't respond to messages for months, even though I'm socially active because of the page that I have, and people think it's all about glitz and glamour. But behind that glitz and glamour and all the traveling and the positivity that people see in me, there is also a dark side of me which struggles really bad.
Hmm.
Um, and she has been really patient with me. She has been extremely, extremely patient with me, and she has heard me out. So I think these are the two people who I really, really found, who came up to me to know about what was going wrong. Also, uh, a lot more. So when you, as I said, recurrent depressive disorder, I found out about this disorder last year in September, when it was my um, so last year in the month of August was my second suicide attempt. And I'm still sitting here and talking to you, which is so ironically, but yes, it was my second suicide attempt. And uh, you know what happens is that, what I came to a realization is that when you don't know what you are suffering from, I would go to doctors and I would ask these questions that, what is it? Okay, you're giving me five medicine to take. You're not telling me why am I taking this medicine. So if I stop and I don't come to visit you because I'm feeling fine, you are not explaining it to me why you're giving this medicines. Because depression or anxiety or any kind of medicines which is, which is which you're taking regularly, you can't stop just like that. I'm not a medical expert to know it, but when I am doing my master's in psychology, that's the time I understood that, you can't stop these medicines. but but before, if I go back in time, if I track back in time, once I started feeling okay, once everything was normal, I just stopped the medicines and stopped going to the doctor. Like, when I felt that I'm okay, I stopped doing my therapy. So there is a course There is an entire medical course that needs to be done. There's an entire therapy session that needs to be done. There is a, like, why did, because we were so unaware of this fact, once it's like we treat it like fever. Okay, आज बुखार आया, Calpol खा लो, कल बुखार आया, Calpol खा लो, तीसरा दिन बुखार आया, Calpol खा लो, by the fourth day I'm sure you are fine and the fever will not come back. So we treat it like that. We should not treat it like that. We should take more serious, we should take it more seriously, which honestly I did not. My parents tried it for a really long time, but then I left Kolkata. I stopped staying with them. I got a job outside. I was in Delhi, then I was in Hyderabad, and then I was in Bombay. So, and I'm right now based out of Bombay. So because I was traveling all around, so it was difficult for them also to keep a tap on me as what is happening or what is not happening. So there are times, because I'm traveling alone all the time, I still feel that, I enjoy places where I go. It's my love, it's life. Like, I drowned myself with work. That was my escape plan. I thought that, I'm just good at working, that's why I'm working. But no, that was my escape plan. I thought, offbeat destinations. I chose offbeat destinations because nobody else goes there, which means that nobody in my life, I have not found anybody in my life to bank on. So these are all related, these are all correlated in what I do and how I was functioning. I needed somebody to make me realize that. So what went wrong out on after I thought that I would give life another chance and fall in love. So I thought that I fell in love, and I still feel that I was in love, and I'm still in love with that person. It kind of didn't work out. After a certain point of time, it didn't work out, but he was very supportive towards this entire thing, that he knew that I needed to get treated. He knew that there is much more, and I was very honest. I told him that, behind this glitz and glamours and whatever I'm doing at this point of time, there's a part of me where which is not explored much. So he knew about depression. He knew, he did his studies and stuff like that. So he understood about it, and he was very supportive. But at one point of time, because of the baggages that I was carrying in my life, it just crashed. Like, one day I just bursted like a volcano, and it was it. That was it. I was like, this is it. I am never going back to a doctor. I'm never doing a therapy session. I don't want to do anything in life. Whatever my achievements are, it doesn't matter. I just want to give up. Like, I am done. I'm giving up on life. And I just stopped contacting everybody in my life. I locked myself up and in the room, and I just wanted to finish myself, and I did it. And luckily, my dad understood that there was something wrong with me, and there is, like, he doesn't really come and check and all of that, and but he just, all of a sudden, he just, he came to check, and I was not responding. My pulse rate was not found, and things like that. And that's the time he was like, there's something wrong. She has done something. And they took me to the hospital, and then they found out. So I didn't respond. My body didn't respond for 3 days. I was in ICU. And when I when when I came back to my senses, in the sense, like, when I just got back my senses, and I'm like, fuck, why am I alive? Like, that was my first sentence to the doctor. Like, fuck, why am I alive? And the doctor looked at me and said that because like, he just cracked a joke. He's like, because God didn't want to take you. and I was like, I'm not in the mood to joke with you right now. So he was like, it's okay, you need to rest. So just rest. And yeah, like that's the time. And that point, even with that, I was like, I every day when he used to come to check on me, I was like, why can't I die? Like that was my approach towards life. I'm like, why can't I die? He's like, I've just gone through your social media, I've done so much, like why do you want to die? I'm like, doesn't make any sense. Like I'm not getting what I want. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, love, motivation, somebody to you know say that I am doing great, I'm doing, because you are saying it right now because you're in front of me, but that validation and things like that, because the people that I was looking for validation from, they never gave me that. Or so he's like, why don't you see that you were looking for validation from wrong people? I was like, how can they be wrong people? Because I thought they are my people, and isn't my people is what I should be banking on.
Hmm.
So we kept having conversations where he tried to convince me to go to another therapist and stuff like that, but I was just not convinced. I would be like, are you killing me today? Like each time he would come, I was like, are you killing me today? He's like, no. I'm like, are you killing me today? And it just went on and on for about 7 to 8 days. And the day I got discharged, he told me something which stuck by me. He told me something that he told me, he's like, you can attempt another 40 times if you want. But one surety is that we all are going to die, but we don't know when we are going to die. So
Hmm.
even if you attempt 40 times in the next coming days or months or years, you will not know whether you will actually die or not. So why waste your energy on
So
it?
it's all about the destiny, is what he meant.
Yeah, he told me that, and I was like, I bluntly look at it and I'm like, so he's like, yeah, you will just end up being in the hospital for the next 7 days again. What will happen? A bill of 1 lakh or 2 lakhs rupees. You will just hurt yourself in different ways. That's it. And you will be the one who will be in pain and guilt.
Hmm.
That's it. You are not getting anything out of it.
Hmm.
So what you can actually do is live and let God decide, or this supernatural power or whatever it is decide when you're going to die. Because that is one thing that is sure, that we all are going to die. But when we are going to die, nobody knows. So
Hmm.
when the plane, there are times when plane crashes, everyone is dead, but that one person is alive. Why is that
Hmm.
person alive? That person could also die, right?
Hmm.
It was not meant for that person to die. So
Yeah.
that person didn't die.
Yeah.
There are, so he said, being a doctor, I'm telling you that I have seen dead people also come back alive because it was not their time.
Hmm.
So this, keep it in mind, think
Hmm.
over it, and if you think that what I'm saying makes sense to you, then go to a therapist, go to a doctor, and always ask questions. If you are not satisfied with one psychiatrist, chuck it, go to another one,
Hmm.
talk about it, see what that person has to say. Because sometimes we are really not satisfied with our psychiatrist because they just listen to you for 5 minutes, write 5 medicines, and
Hmm.
ask for 2,000 rupees, and you go back. So
Hmm.
I needed somebody who can really listen to our problem and understand us, give us that time, because they don't know
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
but we are opening our life to them.
Yeah. It's great that you had people like your friends and this particular doctor who like, and your parents of course, who really like understood you and who really like gave you motivation and that will to live. And you are also very brave to sort of make it every time. So more power to you for that. So
Yeah,
um, I would like to conclude this conversation by asking you, you have survived suicide attempts and you have been through some like in some dark places. What advice would you give to the viewers who are listening to us? Um, People who are, even if they're not going through depression, and even if they are, or if they know someone who's going through depression, what would you tell them that would sort of help them in that situation?
honestly, first thing that I have learned in this whole process is that you have to start loving yourself.
Hmm.
Sounds very selfish. How can you do it, or what you can do? You just have to start loving yourself. Nobody else can do it for you.
Hmm.
First thing is that I never loved myself. I never thought that I need to love myself. I'm like, oh, everyone else is supposed to love me. No, that concept is wrong. You're supposed to love yourself. If people call you selfish, fine, be selfish. It's no harm in saying that, you love yourself. Be in love with you, because when you start being in love with you and respecting yourself, you get motivated from within. You get motivated from every aspect. You get
Hmm.
motivation ki, yes, what I'm doing is right, what I'm doing is correct, what I'm doing makes me happy. So even if the smallest of things is, if you want to go and shop. If you want to wake up one day and do nothing, do nothing. If you want to wake up one day and say that I want to do everything, then do it all. Nobody can take control over it. Do not let someone else take control over your life, because it's your life. So have a control over your life in the right way. Something I really want to add is that after this doctor telling me what he told me, I did take some time. I did go to a therapist. I started talking to her. Now I take regularly, like religiously. Like it was so difficult last year. It was very, very difficult for me to even get myself up from my bed. But religiously, this doctor, my therapist, have motivated me every single day. She would send me a text and everything. I went to a doctor where I told him, the first thing I went and told him is, this is what my history is. If you diagnose me, if you say this is depression, I'm never coming back here again. He's like, give me 3 weeks time and we will see what we can do. And he was very patient. So he's Dr. Aniruddha Dev. He has been really, really patient with me. He gave me, there are times when I went to him and told him that it's a long story, I need to say it. He's like, okay, I'm listening. Like, he didn't say that I have other patients. He
Hmm.
actually gave that time to listen. And um, and he's always available. He has been available for me in, over email and things like that. So now my therapy is going to be in year, where I have been diagnosed with recurrent depressive disorder. I have been taking my medicines on time every time. I take therapy every week. I am doing much better. I see the change in me. I see the change that has come into my life. It's very evident. And once you see the change for yourself, you never want to go back into that
Hmm.
dark pitch.
Hmm.
There are low days of mine as well where I don't feel like doing anything. And I remind myself that, it's okay. It's absolutely fine to not do anything. It's okay.
Hmm.
It's just one day that you're feeling low and you don't want to do anything. So you
Hmm.
just watch TV, do something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And you know it's very funny that we make fun of people who kind of tells us that I'm not feeling okay today. We 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 keep asking them, what happened. Don't ask them. If they really want to say something, they will.
Hmm.
And do not force your opinion on other people,
Hmm. Hmm.
because your life, your shoes, what you're walking on is very different from the other person. Don't try to compare someone else's life with your life, because they are not the same.
Hmm.
You will never know how and what a person is feeling. So stop judging. Absolutely stop judging. Stop making comments. If you can't help, don't help. If you Because when somebody is coming to reach out to you or talking about you, if you stop them and start advising them, they will never come back to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can be a good listener, listen. Don't advise unless and until it is asked for it. And also I would suggest that it is better not to advise, because only a only a therapist or a doctor who is medically you know certified to advise should advise, because I'm sure a cancer patient or a patient who is suffering from diabetes is not going to come and ask me medicine should I take. So other things which is also included, there are potassium, calcium and things like that. So I am not aware of it, that's not my niche. So let the doctor and the therapist do their job. All you can do to a friend or to a family is to lend your ears, hear them out and direct them. One thing that you can, which I tell, is that the first therapy session or the first visit to the doctor is always very, very difficult, because you have to really push yourself, struggle to get out of bed, brush your teeth and everything. If you can accompany them, do that. Book a session for your friend, book a session for your family member who you think, because we are ready to give excuses ki, this is not happening, no I don't have the money, no I don't have the energy to do this today, let's not do this. Motivate them to take that first step towards getting better. And that's the only way a person can get better, because once that person see the change in themselves, they will want to see the better version of themselves.
So just being supportive and being around, I feel.
Yeah,
that's the biggest help.
It's not always, you cannot always be around, you can't always be supportive as well. It's very unrealistic expectations from human being in general. Just stop judging, just stop judging and stop commenting, is what the basic rule is. If you can hear, just hear them out. Just put your ideology on someone else.
All right. Thank you so much, Shalini, for sharing your story. I'm sure you're inspiring both younger and older adults to be more open about depression and not be scared of discussing it in front of people. And for our viewers, that was it from us. Please like, share, and subscribe to MHD for more blogs, podcasts, and webinars and conversations on mental health. Thank you so much.